Hey guys, my name is Courtney LaGrosse. My community name is The Fellowship, and luckily and happily, I graduate next week from San Jac Community College. So woohoo for me, yes, ha ha ha. All right, so what I'm doing a video over is letting you know a case study that I have looked into, dived in, read over and over, and everything. So the overlook of my story is that three friends are in college getting together for their lunching. They're getting together for lunch and class, and meeting up to get something to eat before they jet out, right? So one of the girls is fascinated about her weight. She feels like she's overweight. She feels like she's fat. Like she doesn't look good. She feels like she's not pretty enough, you know what I'm saying, like that. And then they end up going to class. They have a guest speaker that hints kind of funny, that speaks on eating disorders or being weight loss and how it explains and how different cultures look at it and stuff like that. Still to come to the end to where the girl, and her name is Reese, come to the end for Reese to not even understand, like, she didn't even listen to nothing the lady said. So she still dealt with that weight problem. She didn't accept the problem as it was. First step to anything is accepting the problem that it is, right? Right. All right, let's get into it. So for chapter 1, I have three terms that I think that really stood out for chapter 1. One of them is noise. So I chose noise because her reflection in the mirror on page 53 at the bottom. It says, Reese turned and glanced into the mirror one last time and says, They don't know how it feels to be fat. If I had Emma's figure, she's so thin and never has to watch what she eats. I'm so fat. So that's telling the noise in her head, that's telling us that the noise in her head is causing her to think that she's fat. So it's like an interference in the message. So the message is trying to get to her like, hey, you're not fat, you're nice, you look good, But in her head, she has that noise that's telling her, like, you're fat, blah, 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 you need to lose weight, you need to cut down, right? Right. So then I have another word, it's called interaction. That's also on page 53, but in the middle. Interaction comes in play because on YouTube, YouTube, give me a break, said Reese. Emma said, yeah, today is one of her Reese's fat days. Sherelle says, girl, you weigh every bit of 130, and they go on. They go on to while Reese explains all that she eats. So we're going to go back to it, interaction. So they're interacting, they're going back and forth in a conversation. Reese is having one of her fat days. Emma is more on to Reese than Sherelle is. Sherelle's kind of new to the game, but Emma knows more. So my last term for chapter 1 is fields of experience. She brung a attitude to the other girls as if she was fat, and they told her she wasn't. Like, for instance, on page 56, Reese lashes out at Sherelle, and Emma states she's like that sometimes when she's upset about her weight. She gets really, really quiet and withdrawn, and it's overly if you criticize her in any way. So basically, if you criticize her, you talk about her, even if it's not criticism, but she takes it as that, then she lashes out to you, like, point blank period. This is what happens. So let's move on to chapter 3. So in chapter 3, I chose self-concept. Self-concept, I put her views of herself were that she was overweight, but she really wasn't. For example, on page 55, Reese is saying that she needs to lose 10 pounds, saying she's supposed to be 120 according to a magazine that she read. Right? So a magazine that she read was supposed to give her this insight on how much she's supposed to weigh, yada, 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 right? So then I go on to face. So face, she puts on a face. She puts on a face throughout the whole entire story. But this is one place that I saw that she put on face for sure. So it says she allows them to know and see how she views herself. On page 54, Sherelle and Emma talk about the situation. Emma explains to Sherelle that Reese has a bad day. She goes into the next day thinking she only needs to eat vegetables and drink water. So now she put on her face as if, oh, I have to lose weight. I don't want them to know, but I have to eat this and this and that just to make it, right? Right. So then we have our last one, and I have embarrassment. She was outwardly embarrassed in third grade, for example. On page 55, one of her classmates made a comment saying "boom, boom, boom," ridiculing her as she walked down the aisle. So boom, boom, boom means you big, right? Because only big people make noises, apparently. So let's move on to chapter 3. So chapter 3, we have selection. Selection means selection. So selection is when she was at the salad bar and she only got vegetables. She was getting vegetables she didn't, that she only enjoyed, right? So on page 53, towards the end, Reese is picking out the vegetables she wanted but stumbles across the ones that she doesn't want. She grabs an assortment of vegetables but ignores the cauliflower, which points towards the taste. So her selection was taste. So that when she was going through a selection, she didn't like the way it tastes. Attributions. The girls finally reason with Reese, even though they don't think she is fat. On page 56, Sherelle says she thinks she is beautiful the way she is. Emma replies, I know, but she thinks she's fat, so it doesn't matter what she says. So regardless of what they say, tell Therese, let her know, hey, you're beautiful. They reassure her. She still thinks she's fat. So the last one for chapter 3 is just salt. For the salt, I did the girls thought very positive of Reese while she was thinking negative of herself. For example, on page 56, Sherelle says, I don't understand her obsession with her weight. She's not fat. She's a size 8? Fat. I don't know if they put sizes on fat, but size 8 is not fat according to the girls, right? All right, so let's move on to chapter 4. So chapter 4, I chose blended emotions. When Reese was still hungry, but her negative emotions was overbearing, and she just sat there and drank water and ate more vegetables. On page 54, it says, Reese leans back in her chair and tries not to watch Emma eat the cake. Even after eating, she felt hungry. Reese says, well, that's what you get. You shouldn't been a pig yesterday. So Reese in her mind is saying like, hey, that's what you get. You shouldn't have been a pig yesterday. If you wasn't a pig yesterday, you could have ate the cake, I guess, All right, so my next one is emotional management. Emma tries to keep her emotions together about her friends on page 59. Emma says, what can I do to help her? I'm afraid she's going to hurt herself. So Emma's very concerned when it comes to Reese because, hey, I'm concerned, you're not eating, you're working out too much, you're stressing about your weight. It can hurt, you can hurt yourself, So Emma is very much concerned when it comes to Reese and this weight issue. The last one that I chose was emotional contagion. Sorry. When Reese is sad about her weight gain, Emma becomes sad as well. On page 59, Emma shook her head sadly as she watched her best friend go toward the gym. So it's just not one person affected in the situation. It's also Emma. It's Reese, her friends, and any other person that recognizes what Reese is going through. Correct. So chapter 5 we go and we have co-cultures. So co-cultures, when the guest speaker says on page 56, did you know that dieting has reached almost epidemic proportions? Meaning dieting has become a culture that others have gained no matter gender or race. So the Dr. Halden, I think her name was, she was letting them know hey, you're not the only race, or you're not the only gender that thinks about your weight. Women, constantly talk about their weight, but most men don't care until they get way older and they have that dad bod, as they say. But women constantly about their weight, hey, I'm not pretty enough. They have all these figures online, hey, I'm not good enough if I don't look like that. You know what I'm saying? So I have a second one, and I have display rules. Reese didn't hourly confess to her feelings about the eating disorder she may have had. On page 57, everyone participated in the discussion with Dr. Holland, but Reese didn't. So they went for a little while. They had a discussion in class, and Dr. Holland was out. She was a guest speaker, and they were speaking. But Reese always responded in her head. She never if she had any concerns, she never went out and told them in the during the class period or whatever. She'd always just kept it inside her head. Sorry about that. Okay, let's continue. So my last one, I have female culture. Her being a woman and obsessed with her weight. So just basic, her being a woman in the world and like just commonly being obsessed with her weight. Most men aren't, but like I said before, they don't get obsessed until they're old, right? So chapter 6, right? So we have understanding. Her friends try to understand how she felt and eventually just let her be. On page 56, Reese caved in and, excuse me, and took a piece of Emma's cake, then lashes out at Sherelle because she feels bad. And Sherelle tries to understand, but she really doesn't get it. So like I was saying, Emma's more close to Reese and knows about her issues than Sherelle does. Sherelle's just new to the game and trying to figure out where she fits in and try to understand what's going on with Reese, right? So the second one is mental bracketing. While Dr. Holland was speaking, right, Reese was thinking to herself, but then going back to listen to what she was saying, had to say. So just for example, on page 57, when Dr. Holland asked a question, and Reese comes back from in her head and answers to herself, I would probably give up a few years to weigh 120. So Dr. Holland was like, how many years would you give up to weigh the weight you think you should weigh, right? And Reese is listening, but then she rolls back, and she goes in her head. She actually listens to the question again, and she answers. So she's just in her own thoughts, basically, right? So third one is paraphrasing, right? So when Emma told Reese about what her father said, on page 55, Emma says, your father's the doctor said to ignore the equation from an insane magazine we read. So she's paraphrasing, like she's not giving us the exact magazine that she read. She's not giving us the exact name. She's just saying, like, your dad said stop, and he's a doctor, so you should listen to that, right? So chapter 7, I have honesty. When her friends called her beautiful and that she wasn't fat, on page 53. When Emma says it's one of the Reese's fat days, and Sherelle responds and says, girlfriend, what do you weigh? Every bit of 130? Like basically saying, like, why are you having those kind of days if you're beautiful? Like, you're beautiful the way you are. You're not fat. You wear a $105, basically. That's what they're basically saying. So we have verbal aggression, correct? It says when the girls made fun of her in 3rd grade. So on page 54, Mary said under her breath, nice pants, where you get them from, Tints R Us. So that was verbal aggression. Like, she used her words and she's aggressively went towards Reese. So Reese had a lot of complications even when she was younger with weight. So it didn't just start now. It started when she was younger. Defensive communication. Reese outwardly gets defensive when the girls are trying to help her. So, for example, on page 59, Emma asks her to go with her, but she says no, firmly. If I'm going to lose weight, I have to eat less, right? So she's firmly telling them, like, hey, I'm not going. Like, no ifs and buts about it, right? So let's move on to chapter 8. Chapter 8, I did physical appearance. So page 53, she worries about how she looks before she even leaves to go to lunch. So she fixes her hair and looks at herself in the mirror 1,000 times. And Emma and Sherelle is rushing her like, hey, girl, let's roll out. We got to eat before we get to class, right? I also did mixed emotions. So it's fighting. She's fighting her hunger pain. So even though she sat there and she ate and she's looking at Emma eat, eat other stuff, or the cake and stuff, and she's towards the end. It's towards the end. Towards the end, she sits there and she's like, oh, like my stomach, like it. She ignores it even, and she kept working out. So she ignores that she's like brutally hungry. She just keeps working out, thinking it's gonna make her better when she doesn't, in reality, know that if you don't eat enough, you still gain weight. So your body feeds off of fat cells, right? Right. So then let's go to I put nonverbal communication. When Reese fades into a flashback on page 54, Reese throws her backpack, and then also another example is Reese takes her backpack and firmly, like, aggressively puts it on her back on page 53 when she gets mad at Emma and them, and it's like, fine, let's go, let's roll out, let's go since y'all rushing me. So let's move on to chapter 9. Chapter 9 was more interesting, had more words, or more terms I could point out because it's over conflict and power, right? So, for instance, and I just said that I use conflict. So, for conflict, I did Reese thoughts versus her weight, and also with her friends because they were thin in her eyes, right? So, Reese thoughts versus her weight. was the same. It's like the same thing, but not the same thing because her weight was good. She was fine. She didn't look bad, but her thoughts told her that she looked fat. Like her thoughts told her like you fat, like basically, right? So then she had conflict with her friends as well because in back of her mind she's like, dang, I wish I could be like Emma. Like, you know what I'm saying? I wish I could be like her. She's all beautiful and thin, yada yada yada. Like she's beautiful. I wish I could be like that. You know, she has conflict. She's building up a conflict between them that they don't even know about, basically, right? All right, let's. So I'm moving on to power. So for power, Reese's friends have absolutely no power over her actions. So for instance, in the story, they say, "Hey, like Reese, you need to eat." Emma's like, "Emma, you need to eat, Reese. You need to eat." And Reese is like blowing her off, like, "No, if I'm wanting to eat, if I'm lose weight, I don't need to eat. I need to eat less. I need to eat vegetables and water only, or whatever, right?" So then I also chose chose avoidance. There we go. Reese chooses to avoid dealing with her obsession over her weight, right? On page 59, her weight and avoided on page 59, her weight and avoidance would and she her for overweight, her weight, and she avoided what her friends said. Also totally avoided Dr. Holland's lecture. Want supper? So on page 59, she says, "Want supper?" Emma says, "No, thanks. I'm going to be busy to eat. Too busy to eat tonight." I think I said Reese. Emma goes on and says she has to eat then. And then she says, "Didn't you listen to anything what Dr. Holland said?" So basically the whole lecture she didn't take in how she felt. Like she didn't take in what she said, what happened, how it was. She didn't take in none of that. She just literally blatantly basically ignored it. This is what she did, right? All right, so for number 2, I put separation. She was frustrated about her friends and not understanding her. Partially, girlfriend, do you weigh all of 30 again, right? She says, Sherelle, she said that, and then Reese says, fine, make fun of me all you want. You don't understand. You don't get it. You want to make fun of me? You don't get it. You don't understand, right? Like, I'm trying to tell you what the problem is. You're not trying to understand it, basically. It was like Reese was trying to let out, but a lot of times in the story, she was really just more so telling herself, like talking to herself about it, like, hey, like, you know, just mainly self, right? So then for chapter 10, so I also did a serial argument. So more so her constantly arguing with herself in the mirror. So on page 56, she screams what an idiot in her head in the mirror. She screams what an idiot because she sat there and she ate a piece of Emma's cake knowing she wasn't supposed to, and she's regretting. Now she's blaming herself about it. Now she's going all through the motions again and again and again, right? So chapter 10. So beauty is a good effect. So Reese believes as long as she's skinny, she's fine and seems as beautiful. So Reese believes that if she loses weight, if she drops weight, if she eats less, that she's going to get skinny and then she's going to be miraculously beautiful, which everyone's beautiful in everyone's eyes, right? Everyone has their own aspects of beauty. I also did birds of a feather because Reese seeing and wanting to be like her Emma, like she said on page 53, like I wish I was like Emma, wish she was beautiful, right? So it goes into like, dude, like what's really going on? Like, you know, she wants to birds of a feather flocks together, basically. Like, I hang around these friends because they're like this, because this is what I want to be like. So maybe it's like a little motivation thing, but also birds of a feather flocks together, right? Right. All right. So I don't know. I feel like now that I've understood and really understanding, I can point out self-concept and all that. So she had a real problem with self, like I said in chapter 2. Her problem in the whole story was self. It was self this, self that. It was just self. Like she really had a lot of issues within herself that she needs to figure out. And Emma, nor Sherelle, nor Miss Dr. Hollins, nobody could really help until she got it down pat herself, right? So that was all I really got from the story. And also to be, just always love yourself, basically. Don't, if God wanted you to be skinny, he would have made you skinny, point blank period. Overall, this class was awesome, like awesome sauce. Like I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I picked the class to be inside. I'm glad I did an in-person class because I haven't done in-person since we went online. So I'm glad I missed it. I missed in-person. Groups, awesome. I mean, a couple of, hiccups, but groups were awesome. And I actually enjoyed the fact that Miss Howard promoted groups. He promoted group work because that's how most people learn. I'm a hands-on learner, so that's how I learn, and some people don't like it, but some, it is what it is, but overall it was a good class, and I would definitely give you a 5-star and a thumbs up on Raymond Professor. All right, you have a nice night. Goodbye.